Hi, welcome back to my channel. I have a double page layout for you today. Today's layout will be documenting the rest of 2023. We're starting off on some white daisy, and then I cut this coated green paper and I gutted that. And then we also have some pewter that I cut down to 10 inches, and then that green is cut down to 11 inches. So I just have that half-inch border going around. I have cut my photos down to 3x3s, and I'm just sorting to see which ones I want on top. I know I'm going to be bringing in my flip-flaps, and the page is going to be full of flip-flaps. So just trying to figure out which ones I want on top. These are the 3x3 flip-flaps we're going to be using. I have 3 of these 3x4s, and I know I want to do some journaling with the stamp of the month. So I decided to bring some of those over, just trying to figure out what I want my layout to be. I thought about having the grid all on the right and then having the larger photos on the left, but that doesn't leave me a whole lot of room for journaling. So bringing that grid over, and I have a couple 3x4s that I didn't want cut down. So I'm going to bring in a flip flap for that vertical 3x4. I only have one of those horizontal 3x4s. So now I'm thinking, well, let's put the 3x4s in the centers and then have the grid going around. And I'm liking how that's looking. So I'll tape together the photos that are going into the flip flap. So once they're in the flip flap, they don't move around or get offset from each other. These photos were taken at the end of 2023. They're photos that didn't make it onto their own layout, so it's just kind of everyday life. We were making homemade donuts in some of them. I chopped my hair off at the end of the year, playing lots of games at home. So just everyday photos that I couldn't part with, but they didn't need their own layout. Now I'm just laying down our background here, like adhering that green. And this is the coated cardstock, so it does have that glossy finish, kind of that shine to it, which it's nice to just bring a little bit of that in, and I'll be bringing that in for my embellishments as well. We'll go ahead and bring that pewter cardstock back in. I did play with the idea of using the lighter side, but since I'm going to be framing my pictures with white, I thought maybe the darker would be more of a contrast against that white cardstock. We'll go ahead and bring our photos back in. And so I'm going to put that white border around the picture, but then I was playing with the idea of doing a either red matte, that's scarlet, otherwise a toffee matte. And I didn't like how the red and the green went together. It looked too Christmassy for me. So I'm going to do that toffee color. I'm just leaving the slightest border of white around the photo, and then I'll do a little more of the toffee. So just testing it with this one photo here. I'll get that cut down. And I'm liking how much frame is around that photo. So I'm just going to cut down all of my toffee mats so they're all the same size. We'll finish getting the white frame around all of these photos and then just adhering those to the toffee mats. For all of the white mats, I used scrap paper. I love that I didn't have to cut into my 12 by 12. I had enough little pieces laying around that I could get 3 by 3s out of them. And this is what I'm thinking for the layout, and then that'll be a flip flap in there, and then all my other flip flaps will be coming in here. Here I'm just sticking all of the photos into the flip flaps. I like doing an assembly line. It makes it way easier if I cut out everything first and then put everything in the page or in the flip flaps together. And I'm trying to figure out which ones I want on top of which photos. Here I'm facing my dog inward, so I wanted that looking into the layout. And then I went ahead and cut these notebook papers from our stamp of the month. And then I also cut that scalloped edge and an arrow from the stamp of the month, the January stamp of the month. I'm just playing around with where I want the arrows, where I want title elements. I'll go ahead and get these stamped with the notebook lines. These are all stamped, and with those notebook lines, there is a wider spot up at the top than at the bottom. So I did want the notebook tears to go in different directions. So I just trying to decide which direction I want those notebook tears, making sure I keep that thicker spot up at the top of those. So I'm liking that, but I don't know where I want my title. Typically I like my title on the left-hand side. So I stamped this, The Best Is Yet to Come, from the January stamp of the month as well. I'm thinking of offsetting it with that green, but it just didn't have enough green showing for my liking. So I brought in my circle thin cuts, and I think that'll be a good border around that. So I cut that in the coated green as well. Yes, that has a nice border. So now I can use this scalloped piece as another embellishment. Still playing around with the arrows. And yes, the title does need to be on the left for me. So I go ahead and switch those around, but then the notebook tear is on the wrong side. So I'm just going to switch it out with this other one, just so I can keep that wider section at the top. And since I brought in the title on the left, I'm moving that scallop over to the right. I know I like the title, so I'm going to adhere that. And let's go ahead and get started on our journaling. I stamped the Magic of New Beginnings from the January stamp of the month in white, but I kind of wanted to bring more of that toffee over with the Best Is Yet to Come title. So I re-stamped that, and then I just fussy cut it out. It doesn't come with a thin cut. I'm adhering the arrows down. I want them to be kind of random, but yet I also want them to point at which section the journaling is for. So I journaled for the entire flip flap and then pointed the arrow at that. For the most part, I think there's one that's pointing the opposite direction just to keep it random. I just set some acrylic blocks on those arrows while they dry. This was a super simple layout, just with a lot of flip-flops. But I like how it came together. My dogs. My husband's homemade card box up there. He made that out of the wood. All the games we were playing at the end of the year. And then I decided it needed a little something more. So I added some faux stitching around the edges. Just with my black pen. I've been adding faux stitching to a lot of my layouts lately. I think it just added the finishing touch. And here's how it turned out. There's that stitching and the best is yet to come title. It's a nice, simple grid style layout, but it just kind of wraps up the year, wraps up 2023, and gets us ready to go into 2024. We were able to fit a ton of pictures on this layout. I hope it brought you inspiration, and until next time, live a life worth scrapping. Bye, guys.